A dying father calls out blessings from a tent made of animal skins. His voice competing with the desert wind. 12 sons stand around his bed. It is the number of administration. It is the signature of God, structuring his government on earth. And it does hold. Through the crucifixion. Through the empty tomb. Through the 40 days of his post-resurrection teachings. The blueprint survives the cross. But what happens when the architect ascends into the clouds? And one of those 12 pillars suddenly collapses in a field of blood? Read the first chapter of Acts. The narrative focus is startling. Jesus ascends into the clouds. The disciples return to a cramped upper room in Jerusalem. They do not spend days weeping in grief. They do not immediately run into the streets to preach. They do not sit in silent meditation. They hold an administrative election. Why? Because Peter understands the blueprint. Judas is dead. The rope snapped. His 30 pieces of silver are scattered on the cold temple floor. His body is ruined in a field of blood. His betrayal left a gaping hole in the new government of heaven. 11 men sit in the shadows. But 11 is an incomplete number. 11 is a broken gear in a divine machine. 11 is a collapsed pillar holding up a heavy roof. 11 cannot judge the 12 tribes. 11 cannot represent the whole. 11 signals that the enemy has successfully pried a stone out of the high priest's breastplate. Peter refuses to leave the stone missing. The breastplate must be full. He stands up. He quotes the ancient scrolls. He declares that another must take the office. The place to start is not in the grand visions of Revelation or the sweeping conquests of Joshua. They do not wait for the Holy Spirit to fall. They must fix the structure first. They bring forward 2 men. They pray. They cast lots. The marked stones rattle in a clay jar. They tumble onto a wooden table. The lot falls to Matthias. He steps into the empty space. He is numbered with the 11. The 12 is restored. The architecture is locked back into place. The election of Matthias is not a desperate scramble for leadership. It is a constitutional necessity. God does not pour out his Spirit on a defective vessel. The rushing wind of Pentecost waits for the missing chair to be filled. The fire falls only when the 12 are whole again. The administrative order is restored. The church begins to move. They preach. They heal. They scatter across the Roman Empire. They become the 12 Shevet, the 12 branches extending the rule of the king. Thomas goes to India. Andrew goes to Greece. Peter goes to Rome. But this number is not just meant for the dust of human history. It is not just a tool for organizing nomads in a desert or feeding hungry crowds in Galilee. To see the final, staggering form of this blueprint, you have to look past the end of the world. To feel the weight of this pattern, you have to start in the dirt. You have to watch a family fracture before it can become a nation. The Aegean Sea crashes against the black volcanic rock of Patmos. The salt spray hangs in the heavy air. An old man, exiled and scarred by decades of persecution, sits alone in the blinding sunlight. John is the last of the 12. His brother was executed with a sword. Peter was crucified upside down. Now, John stares across the restless water, waiting for the end. Then the sky splits open. He is carried in the Spirit to a great, high mountain. He watches a city descend from heaven, shining with the terrifying glory of God. Its brilliance is like a very precious jewel, clear as crystal. But as an angel steps forward to measure the city with a golden rod, the vision moves from a blinding haze of light to a staggering architectural schematic. The city is laid out like a perfect square. It measures exactly 12,000 stadia in length, width, and height. Its walls are exactly 144 cubits thick, 12 multiplied by 12. The New Jerusalem is not a vague, ethereal cloud, where spirits float playing harps. It is a fiercely precise, mathematical cube. And everywhere John looks, the ancient blueprint is staring back at him. The city features 12 massive gates, each carved from a single, solid pearl. At the gates stand 12 angels. The sand blows across the dry plains of Canaan. An old man named Jacob is breathing his last, and deeply inscribed on those towering gates are the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, the sons of Jacob, the broken, jealous, violent brothers from the dusty desert tent are now immortalized as the literal entryways into the eternal presence of God. But John looks lower. He looks at the bedrock, holding the massive walls in place. The wall of the city has 12 foundations. The Greek word is themelios, the heavy, load-bearing substructure that keeps a monument from collapsing into the dirt. In the ancient world, laying the themelios required massive excavation, sweat, and time. It is the hidden, unyielding strength of a building, and carved into those 12 layers of glowing, compressed stone jasper, sapphire, agate, emerald are the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb, the fishermen, the tax collector, the doubters, the replacement elected in an upper room. The two halves of the biblical narrative merge into one eternal structure. The 12 tribes form the gates. The 12 apostles form the foundations. The administrative order of the Old Testament and the administrative order of the New Testament are not competing systems. They are the exact same blueprint, finally assembled into its ultimate, permanent form. God has spent thousands of years building a house. He used the sand of Sinai, the hard stones of the breastplate. He gathers his boys in the shadows of a goat hair tent. They are not perfect men. They are fractured, jealous, and violent. The damp grass of Galilee and the blood of the early church to gather the materials. But this cosmic architecture is not just a theology lesson for an exiled prophet on a lonely island. It has a direct, devastating implication for the table you are sitting at right now. Look at your own life. If you are in a season where you feel scattered, where your faith feels like a basket of torn crusts and leftover fragments, you need to look very closely at the names carved into the gates of the New Jerusalem. When we evaluate our own spiritual resume, we usually do not see the gleaming jasper or the solid sapphire of a heavy foundation. We see the dry dust of Canaan. We feel the sharp, bitter taste of failure in the back of our throats. We look at our fractured families, our broken promises, and the quiet, heavy shame we carry in our chests. And we assume that heaven requires a perfection we simply cannot produce. We assume that God builds his kingdom using pristine materials. But God's architecture is not a reward for flawless behavior. It is a structure designed specifically to hold up broken people. Remember, the sons of Jacob, the men whose names are carved into those towering pearl gates, are the same men who stared down into a dark, echoing cistern, listening to their brother beg for his life while they calmly ate bread. One slept with his father's concubine. Two murdered an entire village, with swords hidden under their cloaks. Another was thrown into a dry, echoing cistern on the ground above him. Remember the 12 apostles. The men whose names are buried in the eternal bedrock are the same men who fled into the dark trees of Gethsemane, the smell of crushed olives and cold panic in the air, abandoning their rabbi to the Roman swords. Their failures did not disqualify them from the blueprint. Your failures do not erase your name. Your scattering does not cancel your place in the architecture. When Jesus sat on the damp grass of Galilee and commanded his disciples to gather the fragments of bread so that nothing would be lost, he was not merely teaching a lesson about conserving food. He was making a promise about you. He is the architect who walks through the scattered, broken pieces of your history and insists that every single fragment is gathered up. He insists that the baskets are filled. He insists that the government of heaven is built out of the very people who thought they were entirely unusable. The master builder does not throw away the pieces that do not look like they fit. If you feel like a broken scepter, if you feel like a shattered branch stripped from the tree, you need to understand that the king is not looking for a replacement. He is gathering your fragments to rebuild his table, but to feel the full, staggering weight of what he is building with those fragments. You have to stand back and look at the entire historical blueprint one last time. The smell of damp earth and betrayal clinging to his skin while his brothers ate bread just feet above his head. The high priest steps back out from behind the heavy veil. The smoke clears in the quiet desert air. The 12 stones on his chest are still there. unbroken and unblemished. Gleaming in the harsh sunlight, an old man blessed his fractured sons in a desert tent, and the blueprint of a nation was drawn in the sand. A high priest carried 12 heavy stones into the dark, and the whole camp was dragged into the presence of God. 1,000,000 refugees walked into a barren wasteland, and 12 springs of water pushed up through the dry crust of the earth. Scepters of wood were carried by flawed rulers, and the government of heaven touched the dust of history. A rabbi broke bread on a cold hillside, and 12 woven baskets gathered up the scattered plast, torn pieces. 11 men cast lots in a quiet upper room, and the missing pillar of the early church locked back into place. An exiled prophet stared at a city falling through the clouds, and saw the names of betrayers and doubters carved into eternal pearl. Same number, same architecture, one master builder. But here is the part I keep coming back to. The stones on. They are broken men. They are not a foundation. They are a liability. But Jacob looks at them. That breastplate. God did not ask the high priest to wear one massive, flawless diamond to represent a perfect, unified people. He chose 12 different, distinct, hard stones, and he carved names into them with iron tools. It meant the sharp edges, the differences. The individual weights of those broken families were not erased or painted over. They were mounted in gold. If you are in a season where your life feels like a scattered pile of fragments, where the pieces of your faith or your family do not seem to form any coherent shape, stop trying to manufacture perfection. The king is not intimidated by your broken pieces. He is simply waiting to gather them up. The architecture of his kingdom is built from the exact raw materials you are trying to hide. If this reached something in you, subscribe. Leave a comment even. One word helps. Share this with someone who feels like a broken branch or a scattered fragment today. Pray for us as we keep digging into these ancient texts. And may the God who has never once lost a single fragment of his people carefully gather up your torn pieces and build you into a foundation that will never collapse. His eyes failing in the dim light, and he does not dismiss them. He does not reduce the number to 10 or 3 or one perfect son. He names them one by one. He speaks over them. A high priest steps behind a heavy veil. The smell of frankincense and burning fat thicken the air. 12 sons. It is the exact number required to frame a kingdom. This is the first time the pattern locks into place, but it is not the last. The moment Jacob breathes his final breath, a blueprint is drawn in the sand. It is a blueprint that will dictate how millions of people cross burning deserts, how conquering armies divide conquered land, and how a king sets up his dining table thousands of years later. Because the God of the biblical narrative does not build his house using abstract concepts. He builds with geometric, intentional precision, and the shape he chooses to organize human chaos is always the same. To see how the blueprint actually functions, you have to follow these 12 sons out of Canaan and into the wilderness. You have to watch what happens when the number moves from a messy family tree to a heavy piece of golden clothing. 400 years pass. The family multiplies into a massive, disorganized nation of slaves, and the blueprint becomes wearable art. In the 28th chapter of Exodus, the instructions for the high priest's garments read like an architectural schematic. God commands the weaving of a breastpiece, fashioned from gold, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. But the defining feature, 12 stones catch the flickering light of a golden lampstand. A rabbi stands on a green hillside, surrounded by the remnants of crushed barley bread and torn fish. Of this heavy fabric is what sits on the front of it, 12 precious stones, mounted in 4 rows of gold filigree, ruby, topaz, emerald, turquoise, sapphire, diamond, jacinth, agate, amethyst, beryl, onyx, and jasper. Every single stone is different. Every single stone is hard, permanent, and cold to the touch. And on each stone, an engraver takes a sharp iron tool and carves the name of one of the 12 tribes of Israel. When the high priest walks into the holy place, he wears this breastpiece over his heart, secured by thick golden chains that clink in the quiet darkness of the tent. He literally carries the weight of the 12 tribes into the presence of God. Think about the analytical weight of this design. The 12 sons of Jacob, the broken men who sold their brother into slavery and lied to their father, are now immortalized in pure, uncut gem. Their names are no longer written in the shifting desert sand. They are carved into the hardest substances on earth, bound in gold, and worn by the mediator between heaven and humanity. The breastplate is not an accessory. It is an architecture of intercession. By mandating exactly 12 stones, the text establishes a theological absolute. God does not deal with Israel as a faceless crowd of millions. 12 woven baskets wait in the damp grass. A visionary sits alone on an island of sharp volcanic rock, watching a glittering city descend through the clouds. Nor does he deal with them merely as isolated individuals. He interacts with them through the structured, administrative order of the 12. The government of God requires the whole family to be present in the sanctuary. If one stone is missing, the breastpiece is defective. The intercession is incomplete. Your failure does not remove your stone from the chest of the priest. The structure holds. The 12 remain. This is the deliberate, unyielding math of the Old Testament. The 12 tribes form the perimeter of the camp, guarding the tabernacle on 4 sides. They form the military census, the tribal allotments, the administrative spine of a nation trying to learn how to exist without a pharaoh. But a structure drawn on a parchment or worn on a chest is one thing. Surviving a barren wasteland is another. Because long before the priest ever puts on the golden breastplate, this disorganized mass of millions walks out of Egypt and straight into a desert with no water. And the exact same pattern is waiting for them in the sand. The sun beats down on the Sinai Peninsula. The sand burns through thin leather sandals. Dust fills the air. 1,000,000 feet drag across the rocky ground. Throats burn. Lips crack. They just survived the Red Sea. They watched the chariots of Pharaoh sink like lead. Now they are dying of thirst. 12 enormous gates stand wide open. Same number again and again. Most people assume 12 is just a convenient grouping. A dozen. They find a pool at a place called Marah. They rush to the edge. They drop to their knees and cup their hands. But the water is bitter. It burns the tongue. It turns the stomach. Moses cries out. God answers. A piece of wood heals the water. But Marah is a pit stop. Marah is a temporary patch on a desperate wound. God commands them forward. They march deeper into the heat. Then the horizon breaks. Shadows fall on the sand. Green palm fronds cut through the endless beige of the wilderness. They arrive at an oasis called Elim. Exodus chapter 15. Verse 27 gives the exact inventory of this camp. 70 palm trees. 12 springs of water. Not a single muddy lake. Not a rushing, dangerous river. 12 distinct springs. Cold, clear water pushing up through the crust of the desert floor. Imagine the logistics of 2 million panicked, dehydrated refugees. If there is only one watering hole, the strong trample the weak. The violent drink first. The system collapses. But God does not provide water for a mob. He provides water for a government. The provision matches the architecture. 1 spring for the sons of Reuben. 1 spring for the sons of Simeon. 1 spring for the line of Judah. The 12 springs are not a geological coincidence. They are a theological statement. God does not sustain his people through chaos. A cultural staple of the ancient Near East. Like how we sell eggs in cartons or count hours on a clock face. He feeds them through the exact same administrative grid he established in the beginning. The same God who carved 12 names into the hard, cold stones of the high priest's breastplate now pulls 12 veins of liquid life out of the dry earth. Every tribe gets a source. Every family receives a supply. The number holds. The structure survives. But to fully understand what this number is doing, you have to look past the stones and the water. You have to look at the Hebrew language itself. Because the biblical text does not just casually call them tribes. It uses a word with a physical weight, and that word changes everything about how heaven governs earth. But there is a detail hiding in plain sight within the Hebrew language itself. Every time the English text says, the 12 tribes of Israel, our modern mind pictures a sociological group. We imagine tents grouped by bloodline, campfires burning in the cold night air, a clan bound by shared ancestry. We read the word tribe as a demographic category, but the word Moses uses in Genesis 49, and the word echoing throughout the Old Testament, is the Hebrew shevet. It appears almost 200 times in the Hebrew Bible, and it's primary. Physical meaning has nothing to do with a group of people, and it does function as a practical measurement in the ancient world. But if you look closer at the structure of the desert camps, shevet literally means a branch, a stick, or a rod. It is a piece of wood stripped from a tree, heavy in the palm of your hand, used to lean on while navigating steep ravines. It is the exact same word used in Psalm 23, when David writes, "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." The rod, the shevet, is the weapon of the shepherd. It is the heavy wooden club swung in the dark to crush the skull of a wolf or beat back a lion from the flock. Because a rod implies defense, guidance, and authority. The word evolved. It became the word for a scepter, the ornate, golden staff held in the fist of a king sitting on a throne, catching the sunlight as he passes judgment. That root changes everything. When the text calls them the 12 tribes, the 12 shevet of Israel, it is painting a picture of cosmic architecture. The 12 are not just biological categories. They are the instruments of divine governance. If feeling the weight of these ancient words changes how you see the text, you're exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe. Because every week, we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So the 12 scepters of Israel are designed to carry the authority of heaven into the dust of human history. God does not just want a sprawling family, at the fragments of meals left on the hillsides of Galilee. At the very architecture of the cosmos that God is slowly building, he wants 12 strong branches, 12 rods, capable of protecting the flock and demonstrating his rule to the surrounding nations. For centuries, this administrative structure holds. Prophets speak to the 12. Kings rule the 12. But eventually, the nation splinters. Assyria marches in with iron chariots and carries the northern tribes into exile. Babylon crushes the south, burning the temple to the ground. The scepters break. The branches are snapped in half. By the time the 1st century arrives, the 12 tribes are a ghost of their former glory, scattered across the Roman Empire. They are a shattered blueprint waiting for an architect to pick up the pieces. And then a carpenter walks onto a hillside in Galilee with a few loaves of bread. The wind blows cold off the Sea of Galilee. The sun drops low behind the western hills, casting long, bruised shadows over the green grass. 5,000 men, plus women and children, sit in ordered groups of hundreds and fifties. They are exhausted. They are far from home. Jesus takes 5 small loaves of barley bread and 2 dried fish. He looks up to the darkening sky. He blesses the food. He breaks it. The tearing of the crust echoes in the quiet air. The smell of roasted fish and baked grain passes from hand to hand. The sound of a starving crowd is replaced by the low murmur of chewing in the twilight. They eat until their stomachs ache with fullness. You start to see something the cultural reading completely misses. 12 is not a random tally. The text could just stop there. It could end with the satisfaction of the crowd. But the narrative slows down. Jesus issues a specific command: gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted. His closest followers walk through the damp grass. They bend down. They pick up the torn crusts, the discarded pieces, the fragments left in the dirt. They fill 1 woven basket. They fill 3. They fill exactly 12. Why 12? Because a rabbi standing in the wilderness, feeding a hungry Jewish crowd with miraculous bread, knows exactly what he is doing. He is painting with the colors of the Exodus. But he is also making a massive claim about the fractured blueprint of his people. The 12 baskets are not a mathematical coincidence. They are a constitutional declaration. Jesus is announcing that the scattered tribes of Israel, the broken, scepters of the Shevet are being gathered back together around him. The 12 men he chose to follow him are not just a random entourage. They are the new patriarchs. They are the new administration. He is reconstituting the government of heaven right there in the grass. The fragments are not trash to be left on the hillside. They are the pieces of a kingdom being rebuilt. Jesus ensures every single basket is full. He ensures that not one piece of the broken nation is lost to the wind. The 12 must remain intact. The architecture must hold.